All right, it's episode number 8 of the Take Me on Tour podcast, and we are here today with an episode honoring the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, who unfortunately passed away earlier this week. As everyone knows by now, the news broke about Ozzy's passing on the afternoon of Tuesday, July 22nd here in the U.S., which I believe was the late evening in the U.K. where he was at the time. And so I thought it would be a great time to fire up another episode of the podcast honoring him and have none other than Logan from The Logan Show on this one. Welcome back, man. How's it over there in Ohio?
Yeah, dude, it's been like so long since we've done this, like a year and a half. So it's good to be back on here, man.
Yeah, definitely. It has been a while, not only since you've been on, but since I've done an episode. And this may go down as one of the most inconsistent podcasts in history.
Yeah, it probably will. But you know what? It's all good because what better reason to get an episode out than honoring the Prince of Darkness?
Yeah, seriously, man. I felt like it was just a good time to pay tribute to that whole thing. I mean, there's been a lot going on the last few weeks, and everything involving Ozzy Osbourne, and then kind of an unexpected announcement that he passed away a couple of days ago. So I figured it would be a good time to get an episode out. And I just got back from a tour about a week ago. I was with Memphis Mayfire in Australia, and one of the first things I told you was when I got back is that I have listeners in Australia, which just blew my mind.
That would be insane, dude. Like I've wondered since I started doing TikTok and all that stuff. Like I know that it's going to happen where somebody's going to like recognize me from like a video, and I don't mean that like in a douchebag way, but like I just know it's going to happen, And I don't know what I would do, man, if I was in your position and somebody was yelling your name, right? They're like, Steven.
Yeah, it was. If you're she goes by Jill Van Halen on Instagram, and if you're listening to this, and if I'm remembering this wrong, please correct me in the comments or something. But it's the first show in Brisbane. We're loading out. It's like 12:30 a.m. or so, like right after midnight, and we're loading out, and she's standing by the door, and she's like, Steven, and I was like, do I know you? Like I'm kind of confused. I'm in Australia, like nobody knows me, but at the same time, I don't know who is somebody from the venue looking for me for some reason. So I'm just like, yeah, do we know each other? And she was like, yeah, I listen to your podcast. And I'm like, you do? And I'm like, how do you have any clue what this is? I'm just so lost. But yeah, she told me she's listened to all the episodes, and I'm like, at the same time, it pushed me to want to do more. But she was like, yeah, I listened to all 6 episodes or 7 episodes or whatever. And I'm like, wow, like I've only got that many out. It kind of just hit me with the realization there.
Yeah, dude, I would like go into full on panic mode if someone was like, I see you on TikTok or something. Dude, like I would just probably die right then and there.
Yeah.
That's such an awesome thing that happened, man. That's awesome. And in Australia, of all places, like as you get off the plane or whatever, I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, like the first show day, basically. And, she told me she follows me on socials. She had actually messaged me, and I just hadn't seen it. She was like, I messaged you, but you hadn't seen it. I was like, yeah, I'm absolutely terrible with checking both personal messages and, take me on tour messages. And she had responded to one of my posts, about asking if I was going to be in her part of Australia when I was there. And I was like, yeah, I'm actually headed there right now. And it turns out she had responded telling me that she was working the Memphis Mayfire show selling merch. And I was like, that's just so weird, man, for you to see this post and ask if I'm going to be there. And we end up at the same show. It just blew my mind.
It really is a small world, man. It really is.
Yeah. But I mean, I appreciate, her even saying that, and whether, she was on the fence about it or not. I mean, anybody that says that, I mean, I always appreciate anything like that. I mean, it's not like I even have a ton of subscribers or anything, maybe a decent amount of followers on socials, but the podcast is somewhat inconsistent, and I don't even have that many episodes out, as I said. But every time I put an episode out, and I'm like, man, I kind of regret starting this podcast because you have to be consistent, and it's just exhausting. And all the editing that I always complain about, there's always somebody or something that ends up saying something or talking about it or bringing me back to like, wow, maybe I really need to be doing this and need to be doing more episodes. So I'm definitely glad she said something.
Yeah, well, hopefully there'll be some consistency this time around. I know you've already got at least 1 or 2 other interviews with some Crue people in the can and all that. So hopefully this will be this put you on a good trajectory to keep these things moving, man. Because we need more team out. We need team out more often than once every 6-7 months. I mean, didn't you say? Didn't you? I think you told me on the phone the other day. Somebody in Australia told you they saw you filming or something, and they were like, "Well, I guess I'll see this footage next year."
Oh, that it wasn't Australia, but it was one of the last tours I did in
Oh,
December, the Lions at the Gate tour. So a guy named Sean, who was our TM on that one, and he was like, "Oh, did you vlog the whole tour?" And I was just like, "Yeah, as much as I could." He was like, "Oh, I guess I'll see it in a couple of years." Yeah, and he's not wrong, man. I mean, it's just as I've said before, hours and hours of footage that I just can't seem to be responsible enough to focus on actually getting these videos out. But either way, I'm glad people are watching, and I appreciate anybody who even watches these things. I mean, as inconsistent as they are, whether it be this one or a vlog video or a social media post, I mean, everything seems to have some kind of effect whenever I do post it. So I should be doing it more often. But we are covering Ozzy today, Black Sabbath, Back to the Beginning, all that kind of stuff. And Logan covered this story on his platform with a series of videos starting with Back to the Beginning a few weeks ago, all the way up to his passing. And he's still making updates along the way as the story unfolds. And if you haven't seen any of his videos yet, make sure to check him out on social platforms as well as YouTube. I'll have all that linked in the description for you. And I unfortunately wasn't at Back to the Beginning, but a few fellow touring Crue people that I know were there. And I think anyone who was at this event probably knows how fortunate they are to witness such a monumental moment in history. And I mean, there's so many people that I'm sure wish they could have been there, but I definitely wasn't there. And I did share a few photos on the Take Me On Tour socials of some of the crew members posted. The first one was Justin, who's the guitar tech for Zakk Wylde for Pantera, and I guess in this case he's teching for Zakk, with Ozzy, since he's already his tech for Pantera. But he had shared like a couple of pictures of like the wireless packs, that are his wireless pack as well as Zack's wireless pack, and it just that's kind of like when the hype started building. This was like a day before, and I was like, "Hey man, it would be cool if I could share this if you wouldn't mind," and he let me, and just like a huge response just from something that small. And then after that, Eric Shenyo, I think is how you pronounce his last name, who he does monitors for Gojira, was there as well. He had taken a picture of Ozzy's throne backstage, and I just thought it was so cool to see that in a different setting other than on the stage during the performance. I don't know why, like backstage props or anything like that just kind of have a different vibe when you see them not in the element. So he let me share that as well. And then Danny Marshall, who worked with us with Breaking Benjamin. I didn't share any of her photos, but she was there working with Hailstorm, and a few of the people that I know through socials and through touring that were lucky enough to be there. But I watched a bunch of clips from the event, but Logan was really the one who bought the live stream and covered the whole event, not only watching it, but also doing a recap video on his YouTube channel. So what are your thoughts on that whole thing, looking at it 2 weeks later, especially after hearing the passing of Ozzy?
well, first, I guess let me jump back to the throne photo. I think it was already an incredible photo to see the throne without Ozzy, but I think now, given the news that came out this week that he's no longer with us, it's almost like seeing that photo of the throne now empty. I don't know. It kind of gives you this. It's like a haunting sort of image to look at now. That he'll never be in that throne again. So I think that really is, just for lack of a better term, like a really powerful photo, especially now. But no, back to the beginning. It was. I think myself, along with I think most people. I mean, there's a lot of skepticism. Like, for one, was Ozzy going to even perform? Because there was he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last fall. He did not perform. He was there. I think he talked for maybe a little bit. He was also in that throne at that point. But it was is he going to perform? If he does perform, how is it going to sound? And so I really thought, all things considered, he sounded incredible for what it was. Given the situation, given his health and all that. I mean, was it the greatest performance of all time? No, but I think given everything that he had going on, I thought he did a remarkable job, especially powering through. He did five of his own songs and then 4 songs with Sabbath, so 9 songs total. I mean, for a guy with Parkinson's and whatever other health issues that he had, I mean, 9 songs is I mean, that's a lot, you know. Um, but yeah, I mean that was great. I thought the whole show overall was phenomenal, and it went much better than I thought it was going to. Especially when I think you remember the day before those the set times came out, and it was just like, you know, every band had 15 minutes, and there was hardly any time in between, and it was just like, holy shit! I mean, this feels like it is going to be a fucking disaster, and it really wasn't, man. I mean, it seemed to run smooth, but then I realized watching the live stream, you know, that the stage rotated. So I mean, that definitely saved a lot. But I thought it was really it lived up to the hype. That was probably the most epic concert, you know, in hard rock, heavy metal history, and something that I wish I could have been there in person. I mean, I just think it would have been incredible to be to witness in person.
Yeah, I think we had multiple conversations before the set times came out and all that. You and I just had multiple conversations about like, how is this going to work? Like, is there something we don't know? Are they trying to possibly hide something that maybe he can't perform and they just don't want to break the news yet? You know, because it just seemed like there's so many bands. There's so many bands that it could have been like a 2 or 3 day weekend. You know, for the amount of people that were there, as far as artists, and we didn't know. We were just both kind of like, how is this going to happen? You were like, I don't know if he can perform. And then it all came out, you know, that we saw the set times. We saw he's only doing a few songs, and, you know, he's going to be in the throne the whole time. And yeah, like as you were saying, that throne with that photo with it being empty, you're right. I mean, it's just, it's definitely a weird feeling looking at it now. And it's a lot of people have been sharing it once again since his passing. I don't know how they're finding it, but I guess just maybe the hashtags are finding it, because I can tell that people are still sharing it. And he spent the whole time in the throne, and he wasn't able to stand, obviously. And a lot of people commented that you could tell that he wanted to stand. And I didn't see the whole thing. You did, but like I think I probably saw the majority of it, especially of the Ozzy performances, where it looks like he's kind of getting excited, you know, like he's kind of like pushing up on the arms of the chair and stuff like that. And it's like, man, I really wish he was able to stand, but at least he was able to perform regardless, and get through all the songs.
Yeah, I mean, it really was incredible, and you know, I think he seemed to be in really great spirits. I think he really needed that show, you know. And there was one point where he was talking about how great it was to be on stage, and you know, I think he said something like the last 6 years or whatever have been hell for me, or something along those lines. So, you know, it was great to be back on stage. And yeah, I mean, it definitely looked like, you know, he wanted to probably get up and do his usual, you know, jumping in place and clapping and all that, you know, that he's known for. But no, it was great. And I got to say too, I was very curious to see if he was going to actually be singing, or if it was just going to be to a track. And I mean, he was in fact singing. So it really just it was incredible, you know. I mean, it really was. And you know, the other thing too is like, I thought for $30, I mean, you just can't beat it. I think I watched the Kiss pay-per-view live stream of their final show, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was $40, and it was only Kiss, and it was like, you know, an hour and a half, and it was just it was what it was, you know. I mean, it was disappointing to say the least. And this was not that at all. I mean, it was yeah, it was awesome. I did find out though, for anybody that's curious, and I don't know how many people came across this video, but they did do just a little bit of pitch correction on Ozzy's vocal. He was singing, but they did just for the live stream. So somebody on YouTube, I think his name's Wings of Pegasus, but he compared like a fan filmed video to the audio from the actual live stream. And so and the live stream was on a 2-hour delay. And so they took some of that time, I guess, and did a little bit of editing to his voice, but nothing too bad. But I was glad that he actually performed, you know, and I think that added to it a little bit more, you know.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that as well. I had a note in that you'd mentioned the pitch correction thing, and I don't know. I mean, I didn't see that video that you're talking about where they compare it. I don't know if I would have rather heard with or without it, but I don't know. I don't know enough about audio to know whether that's something you should or shouldn't do. But either way, I think overall he sounded great and he did the performance, and I'm just glad he was able to. And as you and I talked about, I had seen a comment somewhere that said, about the whole event kind of being like a funeral for somebody who hasn't passed yet. And looking at it now, it's like just like a weird foreshadowing now with the news just a couple of weeks later that he passed away. And it's just such a weird timing thing. And a couple of people saying, well, actually a lot of people saying that they felt like he was holding on long enough just to do that final show. And maybe that is the case because the timing is just insane that, 2 weeks after the biggest, event and his final show that he passes away. So maybe as you mentioned on a phone call that we had, like your body maybe just knows or is telling you something, kind of like, when old people, one of them dies, the other one dies like not long after or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, Ozzy he's been like a pioneer of so many things. And now you can say that Ozzy's like the only guy that's ever been able to attend his own funeral. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, no, it was, no, I would agree. I think it is, maybe partially, dying from a broken heart type of thing. I mean, he seemed so, it's so crazy because you see so many people, so many bands, especially older bands, from the 80s and before, and it is very obvious that some of them are out there just for a paycheck. You know what I mean? They want to go, they want to get that money, and you can very clearly tell that they don't want to be there, and they don't have health issues, or if they do, it's not like Ozzy. But with Ozzy, I mean, imagine how much work it probably was, in the last couple of years just for that guy to get out of bed, and here this dude fucking, yeah, it was only one time, but this dude fucking shows up to play to a sold out stadium in his hometown. And you could see how grateful he was to be there. And, I was just reading something earlier. I think he had three sisters. Two of them are still alive. And they both did an interview. I think it was in the Mirror, and the one was talking about how he was texting her as he was on his way to the venue, and I guess from wherever he was coming from, he went down the road that he grew up on as a kid, and so he texted his sister, and he was like, the streets were full with all these people going to the stadium, and he goes, I can't believe all of these people are coming to see me perform. It's crazy. And I think you could tell how grateful he was for everybody to be there up until the very end, and I think that it just made it that much more special. And then that performance of Mama, I'm Coming Home. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, it's got me all choked up, and then like watching the live stream, they're cutting to the crowd and everybody's just bawling their eyes out. And it was super emotional, man. I mean, we were having a 4th of July party the day that we had that show, or the day that the show was. And so when everybody started coming, Black Sabbath was just coming on stage. And I mean, dude, everybody at my house, I mean, there's like 15 people here, most of them not even hardcore into music like I am. And dude, my whole house is just like fucking glued to the TV. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, it
remember you
was like,
saying that.
yeah, like gave you chills, man. It was like we're witnessing musical history right now,
Yeah, I regretfully did not buy it. I'm such a cheap ass, as everyone knows. I mean, I'm a penny pincher. I don't know. I did. Just drop almost $300 on that latest Slipknot box set. So I don't know, but that is like a monumental album for me. I mean, that's a whole other story though. But yeah, I didn't pay the $30. Not only that, I had plans that day. I wasn't even home. And that was kind of like a 12-hour commitment if you were going to get your money's worth for that. That was about 12 hours, right?
Yeah, I think it was about 10. I think it started at my time, Eastern time. It was like 10 a.m. and I think it was over around 7:30. But I will say, I mean, it was a little difficult. I don't know if anybody else had these issues. It was a little difficult to watch it on the TV. I don't know. They really did not want you casting, because you had to watch it through the website, like through the Back to the Beginning website. It wasn't through, pay-per-view or
Yeah.
.com or whatever. And they like did not want you casting it to a different device. And I managed to do it, but it was a pain in the ass, but yeah, it was quite the commitment for sure. And I missed the first two bands of the day, just trying to get it to work, on the TV. But yeah, it was a massive commitment. That is for sure.
Yeah, and probably definitely wouldn't have had the same vibe with this 4th of July party if you were just watching it on your computer. Like, hey,
Yeah,
gather around my computer.
yeah, or my phone or something. Like set the phone up on the coffee table, and the whole house is gathered around watching my phone. Um, but no, it was yeah, it was something, man. But it was a little bit of an endurance test, I will say. I mean, it was kind of like leading up to Ozzy, it was like, holy shit. I mean, this is just a lot. I can't imagine actually being there. I mean, it would have definitely been exhausting to be there in person, or somebody that was working the event. I mean, holy shit, dude.
Yeah, that's a long day for sure. And as we talked about the rotating stage earlier too, I was like, how are they going to do 7-minute changeovers whenever the set times came out? I was like, that's just insane. That's they're going to have obviously drum sets on risers and all sorts of things, but like, yeah, the rotating stage. I don't know how many places have that, but that was just brilliant and definitely made it possible for these 7-minute changeovers. But yeah, I mean, people seem to love that idea and were fascinated by that because that thing got like, I don't know, over 1 million views on Facebook when I posted it. So thanks to that guy for letting me use that video. But uh, I did want to give, not only everyone gives credit to Ozzy, but I want to give credit to Black Sabbath and, all the members there too, because a lot of it is about Ozzy, and Ozzy's known as like the Prince of Darkness and, the godfather of heavy metal and all sorts of things. But like, as we talked about before on one of our mini conversations on the phone is, Tony Iommi's the one who, plays guitar and came up with the heavy metal sound. Correct me if I'm wrong, the heavy metal riff, and you're the one that even told me that Geezer Butler, wrote the lyrics. I didn't even know that. I'm not going to pretend that I'm the biggest Black Sabbath fan or anything, or Ozzy fan, but you were telling me that, a lot of these lyrics were written by Geezer and, songs were being written for Ozzy, by other people and just a bunch of things I didn't know. So I definitely want to give credit to Black Sabbath as a whole and not just Ozzy in this case. I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, 100%. And that's another thing. It was great to see because, when Black Sabbath did their farewell tour back in 2017 or something like that, Bill Ward was not there. So to see the original four members, and Bill didn't play on the last album either. So to see them together one last time was awesome. But yeah, I do think, I know everybody's talking about Ozzy, and that's, why we're here today talking about Ozzy. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, and Bill Ward, I mean, I don't think they get enough of the spotlight that they deserve, because I mean, like you said, Tony Iommi, the guitar player, came up with, I mean, you hear the song Black Sabbath, and to me it's like, I mean, I wasn't alive at that time, but I was just listening to it earlier today, and I'm like trying to imagine what it would have been like, at early 1970, and you're so used to hearing like, shit like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones or whatever, and then all of a sudden you hear Black Sabbath, and it's like, holy shit, like this is some fucking evil shit, like Satan's coming to get me,
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I don't think they get enough credit, and same with Ozzy and his solo band. I mean, a lot of those guys don't get enough credit, and there's been a lot of issues there, which probably don't need to get into now. But that is another thing too about Back to the Beginning, though. I will say is, there were some longstanding issues between Jakey Lee and Ozzy's camp. I don't want to say Ozzy because I don't, I think I told you this on the phone. I don't know how involved in his business Ozzy even was. I mean, I don't know, I mean, you know how it is. Some of these guys in bands, I mean, they don't have a fucking clue what's going on. Even if they, I mean, it could be like the main person in whatever band. And I mean, they don't know, it's always somebody else
Yeah.
handling it. So, in this case, probably Sharon or something like that. So, there's a lot of issues between Jakey Lee and Ozzy's camp. So that to me was, not as epic as seeing Ozzy, but to see Jakey Lee at least get some sort of acknowledgement from Ozzy's camp and to be a part of Back to the Beginning and play a couple of songs, that was for me, that was definitely one of the highlights too, because he does. For one, that's probably, in my opinion, Jake E. Lee is super underrated guitarist, and some of Ozzy's best stuff is with Jake E. Lee, and he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. So that was awesome too.
Yeah, and was it not him that you were talking about earlier that about the whole he was going to come back as a guitarist if he just something about that? Can you repeat that?
Yeah, and I don't know if for anyone watching, listening, I do not remember where I heard this at. I want to say it was like Eddie Trunk or something, but yeah, the story that I heard was that he wrote Jake E. Lee wrote "Bark at the Moon," and he's not credited. And at one point, I mean, I think this must have been maybe late '90s, early 2000s, something like that. I don't know when, but they tried to bring Jake back into the band, and he was like, "Yeah, I will come back. I don't even want royalties or anything. I just want credit for what I wrote." And they said no. And so he said, "All right, fuck you then. I'm not coming back." So
That's such a
that's at least
small.
the story I heard. I don't want anyone to take that as 100%, truth, but that is a story I heard, and it does sound believable, I would say.
Yeah, and that's such a small ask too. I mean, the royalties would be a whole other conversation that I can see why they would be like no. But do you know why he wasn't credited in the first place?
I don't. I mean, maybe that's just Sharon's business savviness, if you want to call it that. Cut everybody out and just give it all to Ozzy or whatever. I don't know. It seems like, I mean, there's, especially like in the early days, it seems like there's a lot of issues. I mean, with Jake E. Lee and like Bob Daisley and guys like that. But then you look at somebody like Zakk Wylde. I mean, obviously he was around for forever. So, I don't know if, if you're not there, it's hard to, there's three sides to every story, as they say. So, I mean, maybe Zakk just gelled better with everyone. Who knows? But yeah, there's definitely, Jake E. Lee is like not the only situation like that, So I don't know how it works. Every band works differently, but yeah, I don't know. And I will say too, I have always wondered, there's a lot of praise for Randy Rhoads, as there should be, but I have wondered, had Randy Rhoads not died, I'm curious to see how that relationship would have evolved over time, given, the issues with Jake E. Lee and all that stuff. It would have been interesting to see how that played out.
Yeah, time changes a lot of things for sure. And when people are only involved for so long, things are kind of, it's easy for things to go well because things are so fresh still. And then obviously he dies and that changes a lot of things. But yeah, I don't really know nearly as much as you when it comes to the history of these bands. I mean, when I say these bands, I mean like mainly 70s, 80s bands. You would think Logan was born in 64 or something.
Yeah, 1995.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was born in 88 and that's just crazy to say. I mean, but yeah, I mean, I guess what I listen to is kind of appropriate for somebody who grew up in the 90s. But you have always just listened to things that were like, predating whenever you were alive. And it just always blows my mind because you're like, dude, I know everything about Motley Crue. And do you know who this band is? And do you know who this guy is? And I'm like, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But I'm like, I don't know where in your life that kind of came into play, but you just know a whole different era of the metal genre than I do.
Yeah, it's just my thing, man. I don't know. Like, I think honestly, a lot of it has to do with Guitar Hero back in the day. I mean, a lot of those bands were in there, and that's just kind of what I got into. And when I was 3 years old, I used to watch Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey every single day. And at the beginning of the tape, they had a music video from the band Slaughter. And so I've been like listening to this shit since I was 3 years old. You know what I mean? So, but there's always more. I mean, there's always more shit I'm finding out all the time that just blows me away from time to time. I'm like, holy shit, I thought I knew so much about whatever. And then you start uncovering all these details about something else. And it's like, Jesus,
Yeah, you might have had an earlier introduction into metal than I did. I mean, it wasn't until I started listening to rock around probably age 5 or 6 with like Kiss and Nirvana and stuff like that. And then didn't really hit metal until like 7 or 8 listening to like Sepultura. But I mean, just I guess I kind of know random facts like that too. And every time you're going to do a video on a band from the 90s or something like that, or 2000s, you kind of call me and fact check a couple of things. And it's just weird how over the years you collect information in your head that you just know, but you don't know where you heard it or found it. I mean, it could be like MTV News like 20 years ago, or more like 25 years ago, or social media, or a book, or a magazine. And it's like sometimes you just remember the weirdest things, and you're like, I don't know where I heard it, but yeah, you just kind of collect information from the bands you listen to over the years. But yeah, you definitely have more of that knowledge, where I feel like I have like the more knowledge on the 90s 2000s era. Not to say that I'm some I don't know what you'd call it, mastermind of all that stuff, but I definitely know what I like, but as you were saying with Bill Ward being there, that was a huge part of it. And I'm glad whatever it was, the issues were, that they fixed, because I don't think this whole thing would have had the same effect if it, were three of the four members. I mean, I don't know how long it took to fix, but I do remember you saying and seeing that like he wasn't on the last tour, and I didn't know about the last album. Man, what a impact it made to have him there for the final performance.
Yeah, I think the drummer from Rage Against the Machine, what is it? Brad Wilk, is that his name?
Yeah.
I think he played drums on the last album, 13, and then Tommy Clufetos drummed on the tour, and Tommy was actually at Back to the Beginning. Tommy Clufetos was Ozzy's drummer at Back to the Beginning. So the guy drumming for Ozzy is who drummed for Sabbath on the farewell tour. But yeah, to see all four original members together again was awesome, and it was so funny because when Bill Ward took his shirt off, I got the biggest kick out of that, and then I'm like, well, maybe it's just me, and then this article came out. Tony Iommi was on Eddie Trunk, and he brought it up, and he told him something like he told Bill that he looks like Gollum or whatever from Lord of the Rings. Oh my god, dude, that was so funny, man. It was so funny. It's like, it's Bill Ward, man. Like, he probably didn't even take his shirt off, but he just don't give a fuck, man. He's in Black Sabbath, and we're not. So that's it.
Of course. And then not only did he take the shirt off, but he was like, I guess post show taking photos with the shirt off. And there's that
of him and Eloy, right?
Yeah, that picture with Eloy. It's just so awkward. It's like, dude, you didn't even put a shirt on for that. You're just like, Eloy's like in this like emotional state, like basically crying in the photo, and and then Bill Ward is just there with his shirt off. It's just too funny of a photo. But it's like, yeah, he didn't even put his shirt back on, but whatever, man. Like you said, it's Bill Ward.
Yeah, dude, he does not give a fuck.
Yeah, dude. One of the most notable things for you, and of course, what I'm talking about, is the Yungblud performance of Changes, and now it's a big thing, and it's been all over the place, and it's doing really well. But you had mentioned that right after the live stream that was one of the most impactful and most memorable things of the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I hadn't realized it was going to be that big of a thing until recently. It's just like blowing up. I mean, he just uploaded the video on his YouTube channel 6 days ago, it said, and it had like, I don't know, almost 2 million views.
Yeah, dude, when I knew it was coming up, I'm like, or when I knew Yungblud was going to be a part of the event, I should say, I was just kind of like, I'm not really that familiar with his music. I've heard his music before. Some of what I had heard was okay. It's not necessarily my thing, but part of me was just kind of like, what's this newer guy doing with all these legends? Why is he a part of this, I guess, and nothing against him, but it's like, this felt like more of an event that should be reserved for, people that have really made their mark over the years, but my God, dude, I already love the song Changes from Black Sabbath, and it's one of my favorite Black Sabbath songs. I think it's a very powerful song. And he came out and just, dude, I got like goosebumps when he was on stage. I like dropped what I was doing, because obviously I didn't sit there for 10 hours, like totally glued to the TV, I was trying to post content about it, while it was happening and all that. And it was just something I just got up and was like, just glued to the TV for the 4 or 5 minutes that he was there, man. It was really, a really incredible performance. To me, it was probably the best cover of the entire day. Like the video's up. He released it as an official single. The money from the single is actually being donated to the same three charities that the proceeds from the show back to the beginning were donated to. But I think at least as of now, only two covers from that performance have been, or well, two covers have been released. I mean, Lamb of God put out Children of the Grave, but that's like a studio recording. It's not the live recording from the show, but that came out like right after the show, I think the next day. And then, yeah, this Yungblud Changes cover. And both of those covers were awesome. But yeah, Youngblood's cover of Changes was just, oh my God, dude, it was insane. I mean, it was that, I thought it was that good, seriously.
Yeah, he just absolutely crushed that performance, man. And I'm probably gonna watch that video many more times now that I've seen it. And it was just flawless front to back. The audio was great. The shots of the crowd singing, the crowd participation made it even better. You know, when especially at the very end when there's no music and he's just like, "Let me hear you," and he's like, "I'm going," and then he like puts the mic out to the audience. I mean, talk about goosebumps, man. Just killed it. But what a like successful event. It went really, really smooth overall, as we talked about. And the audio, whoever, mixed the thing, I mean, it sounded really good in my opinion. A lot of the times with these live streams, not only are there like the technical difficulties on like people like who bought it, like you were saying, with trying to get the thing working and all that kind of stuff, but it's just such a big operation that maybe that's why they had the 2 hour delay, and maybe it came into play with issues like that. But it just sounded great. I think the thing was like pretty much a flawless, day from front to back. I don't think there were really any issues besides the couple that we touched on about, Steven Tyler having no mic or Jakey Lee being a little bit delayed. But I mean, if that's the only issue, really, I do think it was quite a success.
Absolutely. And speaking of success, we should point out too that for those that don't know, Back to the Beginning, and maybe you didn't even see this, but Back to the Beginning is the highest grossing charity concert of all time. Beating out some of the legendary ones like Live Aid and things like that. I think the total like raised over $190 million or something, almost 200 million for three different charities. So that's also, obviously the whole thing was for a great cause as well.
Yeah, I remember seeing the 190 million. I did not realize it had, broken records and all that, but I'm glad. I mean, if, without that, it still would have been like one of the biggest events in history. And to, have that on there as well makes it an even bigger deal and even more of a success. But I certainly regret not buying the live stream, but I know they're working on a release. I think next year it's going to be in theaters and also, I guess, like a physical release. Is that right?
Yeah, it said it's going to be in theaters. I want to say early 2026, and then later in the year there'll be a DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. But I do think it'll be interesting to see what ends up in the movie, because the movie's going to be like 100 minutes, and so you have to figure that it's probably going to be the entire performances from Ozzy and then Sabbath. And then I guess maybe they're just going to handpick, a few covers or something. I mean, but Ozzy did 5 songs, Sabbath did 4, and that's 9 songs. So that already eats up a good, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour almost. Plus, being a concert film, I mean, there's almost certainly going to be some documentary type of footage, backstage stuff. So yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what's all going to be included in that, and hopefully the physical release will include more than what's in the movie. But yeah, it'll I think early 2026 in theaters, later in 2026 physical release.
I don't think it's something I'd go see in theaters. It just doesn't I don't know, maybe I will. I don't know, who knows. I guess I'll have to see when the time comes. But I do hope that the Blu-ray release has everything. I don't think it will. I just think it's hard to fit 12 hours worth, 10 hours worth of content, even if you cut out all the changeovers and stuff like that. I just don't know if it can fit. But we'll see, what it looks like whenever they release it, and I'm sure I'll be buying it because, like I said, I haven't seen the whole thing front to back, and I would like to check it out. But yeah, just what a successful event, and I'm glad you at least saw it. And like I said, Logan did a whole recap video on it on his YouTube channel, so I'll link that below as well if you want to check it out. But getting more into like the Ozzy things, Ozzy just passed away, and when I heard of his passing, it didn't really hit me right away, and I don't know if I'd expected it to at all, but a couple of, I mean, my news feed was just absolutely flooded. Like there was not any. I mean, 99% of posts in the last couple of days have been Aussie related. Now they're kind of starting to slow down now, but seriously, like from everybody you can think of, what was posting a tribute, and it was just like, I don't know, like just so insane. I always, knew this was going to be a big deal, and I even told you like just that I felt like it was coming, and did not think it was going to be 2 weeks after this, but I thought it was going to be maybe this year, if not early next year. I don't know why, I just felt it, and then 2 weeks later, and it's just insane timing and just really unfortunate. But I think you were probably the first one that called me. I was on another phone call, but you texted me and you were like, "I'm seeing articles that Ozzy died," and I'm on the phone with my friend Rob, and he's like, "Ozzy died," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I just got a text, but I'm not sure if it's real." I guess at the time you didn't know if it was legit or whatever. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but I because you weren't sure, I wasn't sure either.
Yeah, I see, especially on Facebook. Facebook is the worst for this. There are so many spam, I don't know if you want to call them spam, but clickbaity kind of spam type of pages, and it's not just music. I mean, it's all sorts of anything news related. So you do got to be careful. And it was from a page I had never heard of, and it was just like a picture of Ozzy, and it said something like Ozzy died, right? And that was it. I mean, there was like zero information, and you see these things all the time, or there's certain pages where there's like some credibility to the story that they're reporting, but they really over dramatize it and make it this huge deal, even though it's not a big deal. So yeah, I was not sure, and then I Googled it, and I saw like one article from like a halfway reputable news site, like a mainstream news site, but I'm like, well, I should wait to post anything. And then I gave it like a minute and a half, and I refreshed Google, and then I started seeing some actual credible mainstream news outlets report it, and I'm like, okay, this is clearly a real thing. And yeah, it was one of those things, I think, well, I think it was surprising in the sense that, like, I mean, we just saw the guy, what was it? The day he died, I think it was like 17 days or something, following back to the beginning. So I think in that regard, it was kind of surprising, like, Jesus, we just saw the guy. But I think overall, it wasn't exactly surprising that he died. And I don't mean that, in a whatever kind of way. I mean, it's just, I think you'd be lying to yourself if anybody said they were shocked. I mean, it's, I think it was to be expected at some point or another, but it was one of those things where it's like, holy shit, I really can't believe he's gone. I mean, I had goosebumps, I mean, it was like, I mean, it was just, it's such a big death, like, not to minimize other deaths, but I mean, it's Ozzy, I mean, it's, I think it's just something that, you never thought would, you never thought Ozzy like wouldn't be here, even though like in the back of your mind, like you knew it was coming, but it's like, wow, shit, he's actually gone. It's like, holy shit, man, this is insane,
Yeah, of course. I mean, I understand what you mean, and I've kind of just known for a long time. I've been thinking about it the last couple of years. I don't know why, just that like, man, Ozzy's death is going to be like a huge moment, and it is, and as you said, not to downplay other deaths or anything, but this is really like one of the biggest in history. And like I said, I felt like it was coming, but not this soon. And like I said previously in this episode, that I'm not going to pretend like I was the biggest Ozzy or Black Sabbath fan, but I still went to a lot of Ozzfests and know what he's done for heavy metal and Black Sabbath as a whole. And thankfully, I've been able to see both of them before. But he also did have one of the most unique voices ever. I mean, there's no way anybody has ever sounded like that. And that goes for a lot of artists in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. I mean, nowadays, I don't know. I feel like you can't tell the difference between a lot of people, but like every couple of years or so, I get like on this Ozzy kick. And I don't know. I just, it happens with a few different bands where like you haven't heard them in a while and then you just decide you want to listen to them. And when you listen to them, you're just like, I cannot believe like why don't I listen to this more? I don't know why. It's just like, and Ozzy's got one of those voices, and Osmosis specifically, that album, like that song, like I Just Want You. It's just like, I don't know, man. His voice just, it's just crazy. I mean, of course, Mama, I'm Coming Home and Changes and all that stuff, you know, but like, I don't know, just for some reason, Osmosis, that album, those first few songs, Perry Mason, I don't know, man, those songs just give me chills. And I just think he's got one of the most unique voices in history, and nobody sounds like him. But it wasn't until I started reading, you know, all the posts from other musicians that it really hit me. And for some reason, the one with Jonathan Davis, I don't know, was what really just hit me. And I don't even remember what it said. It was just that, like, I just remember reading his post, and I don't know, it just hit me, and I was just like, I shed a few tears. And then, funny enough, I think you called, like, asking for help with something, like, right as that was happening. So I was in the middle of like this whole moment of like mourning Ozzy Osbourne, and you're like, "Hey, I need help."
That sounds about right. Me calling it the most inopportune time for help.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. You're just like, "Hey, real quick." I think you were asking me to send you a photo of that of the throne or whatever, and I was just like, "Yeah." I was like, "Man, I'm in the middle of something," you know. But like, yeah, it was, like I said, it was just nonstop in my news feed, and um, I don't know why the corn one hit me, but it just reminds me of my dad went to go see Ozzy with Korn opening up, and my dad hated Korn. He eventually came around and liked him, but I just remember him telling us about this band. Oh, they're so stupid. They're always looking at their shoes, because like they had that thing where like they would bend over and play the guitar super low to the ground. But yeah, I mean, I remember Ozzy taking Korn out. I'm probably, I don't know, 94, 95, something like that, on one of their first tours. So I don't know. He just did a lot for a lot of bands, and I don't know. It just kind of hit me more than I thought it would.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the bummers, I guess, about being, a little bit younger, is that I was really too young to go to Ozzfest, you know. So I did go to one Ozzfest in 2010, and it was the last, I believe, the year that it was Ozzy and Motley Crue, which of course Motley is like the main reason I went. But I believe that was the last year that Ozzfest was a tour. But even then, it was only like, if I recall, it was like 6 shows or something. Like it was not a full blown, full US tour or anything like that. And then after that, well, they skipped a few years in between 2010 and 2018, but whenever they would do it after that, I think it was just, like a one-off. But I'm glad I got to see him at least once. I'm glad I got to go to one Ozzfest. I do remember, though, it was pretty cool. I forget which Guitar Hero it was, but I think one of the Guitar Hero games, like one of the levels was Ozzfest. Like they had a Warp Tour level, and they had an Ozzfest level, and
I don't remember that at all. Must have not played that one.
Ozzy was in the game too. Um, God, I wish I could remember which one. The song was Crazy Train. I can't remember which Guitar Hero, but it was after, because I think it was Guitar Hero 3 when they started doing, bringing actual musicians into it. Like they had like Slash and Tom Morello in that one. So it was one of the ones after that, I believe. But yeah, I see all these old Ozzfest posters, and I mean, it's just like, to me, it's like, holy shit, like how cool it would have been to be at some of those shows, and to see, bands like Slipknot or System of a Down or whoever, Mudvayne, and you see their name like so small on the ad mat,
Yeah.
and now it's like, I mean, they would headline, they headline these venues on their own now, or in the case of System of a Down, I mean, occasionally headlining stadiums on their own. I mean, it's like, holy shit, all these bands really got their start, or some of their, a little bit of their early beginnings on Ozzfest, so it's just incredible to see.
I mean, you were talking about, you know, that was the one of the negative things about being born later is that you missed out on certain things like that. And I guess that can kind of go with a lot of eras. I wish I was born, a little bit earlier to see White Zombie, to see Pantera more than once, to see Ozzy. I don't think I ever saw Ozzy. Well, I guess I saw him at Ozzfest, but not like on a solo tour, like in the '90s when he was just performing as Ozzy. But I was fortunate enough to see, a handful of Ozzfests. I went to, a couple of them, '04 and '06, and those are 20 plus years ago now. But I was fortunate enough to see those. And that's another thing, too, is that like maybe it's not Ozzy directly, it's Ozzy's, what do you call it? Like, it's the Ozzy name or Sharon or whoever the entity. I don't know what the right term is, but it's them, maybe not Ozzy directly, but obviously his still him and his name and everything helping people out. But back then when Ozzfest was a thing, this was pre-social media. There was no Facebook. I think Facebook came out, for everybody in like, I don't know, '07, '08 or something like that. So this is really the way to discover bands. I mean, this is where I saw the Black Dahlia Murder for the first time, Hatebreed for the first time, Throwdown. I probably saw Devil Driver for the first time. Slipknot headlined the second stage. Ozzy headlined the second stage one year. Not to mention, one of the years, the Ozzfest was free. And I remember thinking, like, there's no way this is legitimately free. If I remember correctly, all you had to do was buy Ozzy's latest album, and somehow it got you a ticket to Ozzfest, and it was legitimately free. So, I mean, regardless of whether it's Ozzy himself or just the name Ozzy that's, doing a lot for these bands, it's still all tied to him, and he really has done a lot over the years.
I saw something yesterday or the day before, and maybe you know something about this, but there was, I think it only happened one time, and I want to say it was maybe in Arizona, but I guess this would have been some point like in the mid 2000s, and they merged Ozzfest and Warped Tour like for one day. I mean, my God, I can't imagine. I mean, imagine being at that. How many fucking bands there must have been. I mean, good God.
Warped Tour's a mess on its own as it is.
Well, yeah, and I mean, Warped Tour. I mean, I think they've probably always had way more bands than Ozzfest ever had.
Oh,
I mean,
of
there's
course, yeah.
like 100 bands a day. But the one band that was on Ozzfest that really, every time I see it, the poster, it just blows my mind is Crazy Town. Like, it always surprises me that Crazy Town was on an Ozzfest.
I don't even remember that. I mean, probably wasn't one of the ones I was at, because I almost remember every single band that was there if you mentioned them. But another interesting thing is I don't remember the reason either. I'd have to look into this, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know if I was there or if my brothers were there, but if I'm not mistaken, System of a Down headlined Ozzfest one year. Like, I don't know if it was that Ozzy didn't want to perform that year, or if he performed and he performed earlier. I'd have to look into this, but I don't know if you remember that. But yeah, the headliner for one of the years of Ozzfest was System of a Down, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm remembering that wrong, I mean, I must have dreamt that or something, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened.
I think I remember there was a story a few months ago. David Draymond from Disturbed. I think it was on an Ozzfest. Disturbed was on an Ozzfest, and I don't remember if it was Sharon or somebody came and asked if he would fill in for Ozzy. And I mean, he said this story, right? I mean, I can't say that it's true, but he said the story. I mean, to me, that is like the most like, what the fuck? Like, just makes zero sense. But the one thing with Ozzfest that I did not see with my own eyes, but I always think about was the very infamous Iron Maiden incident. When Sharon had the crowd pelt Iron Maiden with eggs when they came on stage, which still just blows me away, man. I would have killed to be at that show and see that happen.
Yeah, some things I just missed them. I don't know how or why, but I think you're the one that told me about that. And I don't know if you covered it in one of your videos or something, or you just told me about it, but I don't think I would have known about that unless you mentioned it.
Yeah, from what I understand, I think Bruce Dickinson was like talking shit about the show, the Osbournes, and things like that. I don't know, saying stuff like, I don't need reality TV to be famous. Well, whatever. He was just talking to Ozzy in the TV show or whatever. And so, yeah, I guess Sharon said she had like cancer at the time. So she got a bunch of nurses from the hospital to go to Ozzfest um, somewhere in California, San Bernardino or something. And Maiden came on and they just fucking started throwing eggs.
Oh my God.
And then they cut the power like multiple times during Maiden's set. And God, dude, just so petty. And you look back at some of the shit that happened in the 2000s, and it's like, holy fuck, man, what a different time. I mean, I just feel like something like that would not happen today,
It wouldn't. And besides people being soft, I don't know why it just seems like it just wouldn't. I don't know, just wild times back then. I just feel like probably because there was less repercussions as far as like public repercussions. Like, now you do anything, you say one wrong word. I mean, unfortunately, look what Kelly Osbourne said a few years ago, where she was talking about, Mexicans and like who's gonna clean your toilet. I don't know if you remember that. You don't remember that?
What? No.
Okay, so what show is she on? The View or something like that? And I guess she was talking about Donald Trump wanting to get rid of Mexican people in the U.S. and she was trying to make a positive, good point about it, about like why they should stay here, but it came out so wrong. She was just like saying like Mexicans are good people, and she was like, like they do all the jobs that we don't want to do, and she's like, if you get rid of all the Mexicans, she was like, who's gonna clean your toilet, Donald Trump? And everyone was like, dude, I can't believe you don't know about that. I mean, you could look it up. It was like even the co-host, because it's like that show. I think it's The View, if I'm not mistaken. I'll correct it, whatever. But it's like a panel of like 4 people, and they all looked at each other like you did not just say that. Like, they tried to like kind of like reel the whole thing back in. But yeah, I remember her saying that. So I think that's probably why things were more wild back then. I mean, the repercussions weren't as big of a deal. You wouldn't get blasted on social media within 30 minutes of doing something.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, I remember because every once in a while I watch these clips where, back in those days, Sharon was managing other bands, outside of Ozzy, and including Coal Chamber. And, I mean, she's on Howard Stern, back in the day, fighting, like Coal Chamber and Sharon, and they're fighting with ICP. And it's like, I mean, it's like a different world, man.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Cause I don't think, I don't know when she stopped, but I think for however long, quite a while now, she's only been managing Ozzy. But, yeah, I mean, it's just, God, what a different time, man. What a different time. But I mean, that's another thing, Ozzy sort of pioneering heavy metal with everybody else in Black Sabbath. But then, I mean, Ozzfest, I think, paved the way for Mayhem Fest and things like that. And same with the reality show. I mean, that was probably one of the first like celebrity themed, reality shows, just kind of following a celebrity family around, certainly in for rock stars, and we were just talking about, all the other shows that followed, Gene Simmons and all that stuff.
There was also Battle for Ozzfest, just right around 2004, I believe. So that was such a huge deal, that show. And it was like, I was just addicted to it, man. And it was just so relatable, I guess. It was reality TV that you could directly relate to, because I don't know, going to concerts and all that stuff. And, the band of Dozen Furies won, and they did the tour, the Ozzfest 2005 and all that. But on top of that, Jack, his son, was very involved in getting all of the bands. I don't know if you know that. Like, he would recommend a lot of the bands to, I guess, Sharon or Ozzy or whoever was in charge of that, and he got bands like Meshuggah on there, and gave him opportunity. Meshuggah was like playing like second stage at like, I don't know, 1 p.m. or something, and nobody knew who they were. And I mean, yeah, they just all collectively did a lot for a lot of bands. I mean, there's no denying that. Like I said, maybe it's not Ozzy himself directly doing it, but still the whole organization, I guess is the right word, really did a lot for a lot of bands.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, to look through those, all the different ad mats, and just see all these bands over the years. I mean, it's just, it's insane, and like I mentioned earlier about seeing some bands, super small logos and they're huge now. But you can also flip it. I mean, you look at some and there were these bands that were built pretty high up and now they're, totally non-existent. But, yeah, I mean, just it seems like just about everybody, played Ozzfest, and I wish, like I said, I did go to one, but it was like the last one that it was, the last year was a tour, and yeah, and I mean, I wasn't at the other ones, but I feel like it just didn't have the vibe that I imagined the heyday of Ozzfest had. I mean, to me, it was just, I don't know, it just felt like a concert, like, I mean, it was like, well, I'm going to see Ozzy and Motley Crue, like, it wasn't that big of a deal. I don't think the lineup necessarily was that strong, other than Ozzy and Motley, but it was Ozzy, Motley, Halford, like Devil Driver, Nonpoint, Kingdom of Sorrow, and a few other bands. Like it just wasn't as epic as some of the other ones were, So I feel like even though I did go to an Ozzfest, I never had like the Ozzfest experience,
Yeah, it was quite different. As I was talking about earlier, it was pre social media and all that, pre cell phones. Really, I mean, people that had cell phones in 2004, they definitely weren't camera phones. The best you could do was text with like a number pad, and make a phone call if you were lucky. So there was definitely no like. I mean, you had to sneak in a disposable camera if you wanted to get any photos or anything like that. It really was like a different time. It was. I felt like it was, I guess, my generation's version of Woodstock, even though I don't really know that much about Woodstock, but it just seemed kind of wild. Like you're not on your phone and you're kind of just laying out in the lawn. We always had lawn tickets. I don't know if we ever really had any decent seats because they were so expensive, and my dad was buying them. So it's like, I just had to, go with whatever he was willing to pay for. But yeah, it's like people just laying out in the lawn, just, I don't know, like half naked and shit. I mean, it just was different. It was, that's the best way to describe it. It was like my generation's Woodstock. But yeah, just different times for sure. I mean, everyone's, I wasn't drinking at the time. I was in high school. Yeah, people just hammer all day. And I mean, you're there. I mean, we would all often miss a few of the opening bands because it started so early. And that's the thing too, is like Mayhem Fest did kind of carry the torch, but it wasn't the same. Mayhem Fest started like at noon, maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, something like that. Ozzfest, the first band, like doors were opening like at 9 in the morning, something like that. The first band was on at 10 a.m. and every band had a 20-minute set and a 5-minute changeover, if I'm not mistaken. If I can find a set list, because I've seen a few of them floating around, like a day sheet, I'll put it up. But it was 20-minute sets with 5-minute changeover. And if I'm not mistaken, this is way before Kempers and all that. I think all the bands were sharing cabs. And so I could be totally wrong, but I think you just used whatever cab was on stage. And then they had the drum sets on risers, rolling risers. So they would just roll one kid out, roll the other one in. And I guess that's good to go because I do think that the whole 5-minute changeover thing was a success from what I remember. But yeah, man, starting at 10 a.m., we would always miss. I remember I missed Mushroom Head one year because like they were playing like at 10:30 in the morning. And this was when they were first coming out. I wanted to see them and we missed them. I mean, we would tune into the radio. This is going to age me so bad, dude. But we would tune into like the local rock radio station, and in San Antonio, I guess it's 99.5 KISS. And they would be like giving you like a kind of like a update on like what's happening, like, oh, Mushroom Head just got off stage. I remember hearing it's like, damn, dude, we just missed him. Like we're stuck in traffic, still got to park, still got to get in line, still got to get through security, find the stage. It's like, dude, there goes a whole other hour worth of missing bands. But yeah, just a different time for sure. And talk about being exhausted, man. And there from, roughly 10 to 11 a.m. until, I mean, by the time the headliner went on, whether it was Ozzy or Black Sabbath, I mean, it was 11. Then you still got to, get out of the parking lot and all that. It was an event, man. There ain't nothing like that. And I don't even know. I guess being so young, I was able to get through it, but I don't think there's any way in hell I could do that today.
Yeah, I never had to experience that. I mean, like I said, the Ozzfest I went to, we got there at like 7 o'clock and we were out by 11. Like, I went to one Mayhem Fest and it was along those lines, but I mean, it started later, but yeah, I mean, I guess Mayhem Fest, the one year I went was probably the closest experience to Ozzfest without being at Ozzfest,
Yeah. And it was just, I'm very grateful to have been there, man. Even if it was only a few of them, but one of the craziest things. It might have been the same year that it was free, but I mean, the free one alone was just insane as it is. I don't remember which year that was, but Ozzy headlined the second stage. It was already bizarre enough seeing Slipknot headlined the second stage one year. This guy was like, "Hey man, you want a wristband?" And I'm like, "Dude, whatever, man. Like, I'm not trying to buy anything." It turns out that wristband he was giving you was for the second stage to get into like closer into what I guess what you would call the pit, but like now we know that they divide all of these pits into like a front half and a back half, which is just complete bullshit, by the way. But when Ozzy performed, because they knew it was going to be so chaotic, they built like this ring around the second stage. So like anywhere past front of house, you couldn't. That was like a different section. So you had to have a wristband to get to like the front half or the front section of the stage, and everybody else had to be in the back. And I guess it was just kind of like a crowd control thing. But yeah, like grateful to have been there and see all those different years and so many crazy things happen.
Yeah, man, I definitely missed out on that one, no doubt. But you keep, you mentioned San Antonio. I do want to point out, I don't know how many people saw this, but obviously unrelated to Ozzfest, but everybody, I mean, I've been hearing my whole life about Ozzy pissing on the Alamo.
Oh yeah.
And, I don't know how many people saw this, but the Alamo wrote a nice little tribute post when Ozzy died. I mean, that was one of the more surprising ones that I saw. I'm like, wow, I can't believe they actually did that, and that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I had seen that post, but I know things were kind of patched up not too long ago because about 10 years ago he was at the Alamo in 2015 speaking. I don't know exactly on what, but he was making an appearance there. And I remember a friend of mine, Jeff.
I think it was for a TV show, if I recall.
Oh, okay, maybe it was. Yeah, I don't even remember. But yeah, a friend of mine, I think I was on tour at the time. I'm not too sure, but a friend of mine, Jeff, who, we go meet celebrities or used to and get autographs and stuff like that. He had tried to get, a picture, an autograph or anything. And it was just like a complete shit show, man. I think I remember him uploading a video and it was just Ozzy like staring down at the ground and they're just directing him where to go. And there's just like this mob of like over 100 people following him. And he didn't obviously get a picture with them because it was just crazy security. I think he said he saw him in a hotel later and almost had an opportunity, but they wouldn't let him sign. But I always wanted to meet Ozzy. Probably knew it would never happen. But speaking of that, that leads me into my next point that like he had a meet and greet at a Comic-Con, Midlands Comic-Con, just a few days after the Back to the Beginning thing. And the prices for that were pretty insane. I actually looked it up before we did this podcast, and it was $850 to meet Jack, Kelly, Sharon, and Ozzy, $850. And then they all had individual prices as well. So to meet Ozzy alone, $380 US is what it was. And then, if you wanted a photo with just Jack, it was like $80. Like you could kind of pick and choose what you wanted to do, but like not cheap. But at the same time, if that's your one and only and last opportunity to pay, I'm sure people aren't really regretting paying the $850 or the $400 or whatever they paid. But yeah, man, anybody who was lucky enough to do that, I'm sure they are not regretting that one bit.
No, but I remember when that was going on, and I'm just like, holy fuck, like I can't believe he's doing a meet and greet. I mean, I would have figured, going back to his health and the shape that he was in and all that, I mean, I would have thought Back to the Beginning would have taken everything that he had out of him, and
Absolutely.
then to go do a meet and greet. I mean, holy shit, dude. And I don't know. I mean, I've never been to the UK, so I know he was there when he died. I know he lived there in the last few years, but I don't know, where, Birmingham is in correlation to where he lived at. And, so I don't know, like, you got to think about the travel to the stadium, the travel to the meet and greet, all that stuff, man. And it's like, yeah, I can't believe he did that. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money to shell out to meet somebody. But given what happened, I mean, 100% worth it, 100% worth it.
Yeah, I think that's another. I mean, I wouldn't expect them to do a meet and greet either. That's crazy, especially after, as you said, the Back to the Beginning thing, and we had also talked about it a couple of days ago. How like it's a lot of work mentally and physically to be at that Back to the Beginning alone. A couple of days before doing photos and meeting everybody, and it's just like this whole event that he has to be, available for. So you add, the whole back to the beginning event and the pre-show and post-show and all that. Then he goes and does a meet and greet. That's the last thing I would have expected for him to do. But I don't know who's doing that was. I mean, maybe Sharon's. Sharon gets a lot of shit for being, in control of basically his entire career. And I don't have the most negative thoughts to say about Sharon. I don't know. Like, a lot of people hate her, but there was a post that was floating around, social media not too long ago talking about how she gets a lot of hate, but at the same time, like, we owe her a lot because she did do a lot of the things that we kind of just were talking about, Ozzfest and getting these bands together and helping this band doing this tour, and probably is responsible for a lot of his success, whether people want to admit it or not.
No, I agree. And I just said something similar in a YouTube video I did the other day. I mean, it's like, people dog her, and sometimes there is good reason to dog her. I mean, she can be a little cringy at times and do some questionable things. But, at the end of the day, I mean, who knows where he would have ended up had they, not gotten together, and had she not started managing him. Because, I mean, well, of course, her dad was Black Sabbath's manager. I mean, Ozzy obviously had a lot of substance issues over the years. And it's like, who's to say that, and I'm just speculating, but I mean, she very well could have saved his life. I mean, who knows? I mean, he maybe could not have had quite the career that he had. I think she gets unfairly treated occasionally. I mean, maybe she is a little money hungry or whatever, controlling, whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day, dude, it is the music business. And I mean, she did what she had to do, and she made history in the process.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think, I don't think his career would be where it is today without her. And like I said, if people want to deny that or whatever, that I just think that's the truth. And she did a lot for him, and that's a very good point. He did have substance abuse issues, and it was a mess. And actually, from what I read, that he was actually still, like, had issues with drugs and stuff throughout the Osbournes. And my dad was telling me that he wanted to reshoot the show or like bring it back or something because he was clean now. And he was like, yeah, I don't even remember shooting half the stuff because he was on drugs still, which is crazy to believe or crazy to think. I mean, I'm sure that's true, but yeah, I mean, that he was already probably in his, I guess, 50s at that time. If that was like 20 years ago. So yeah, in his 50s and still doing, I don't know how hard the drugs were, but yeah, Sharon could have, you're right, could have saved his life. We don't know, but definitely credit due to her for a lot of the stuff that we've talked about.
Well, and the other thing too, and I said this in one of my other videos too, but so many people that try to go solo, it never pans out for them. If it does pan out, it's never, very, very rare. I shouldn't say never. There's other people that have done it too, but very rarely are people able to go solo and have an equally big career as their former band. Or, I mean, I would argue possibly bigger. I mean, to me, I would say Ozzy by himself is almost bigger than Black Sabbath,
I would say, and also if it does happen, like you were saying, where the solo artist is bigger, it's typically not in metal.
No. And the other thing too, though, is like, it's people go solo and you always kind of look to them as, oh, that's so-and-so from whatever band.
Yeah.
But I feel like Ozzy was almost able to, I mean, yes, he would still play, Sabbath song, War Pigs and Paranoid or whatever on his solo shows. But I don't know. It was never like, oh yeah, that's the guy from Black Sabbath. It was almost like two totally separate things. I mean, even though, like I said, he would play some Sabbath songs, but it was really separated. They weren't really tied in. It was never like, it never felt like Ozzy was, trying to piggyback necessarily off of Black Sabbath. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. He was just somehow able to like have two whole totally different careers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I wonder if that happens too from the timing of things. I mean, I don't know what the timeline is like from the time Black Sabbath started to where he left and all that. But maybe that's a big part of it too. Is the solo career kind of got started early enough to where maybe people were discovering him before they were discovering Black Sabbath. So maybe the timing of that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, two very very successful careers and two very different, two completely different things. Black Sabbath is one thing, but Ozzy by far has his own name in his own right. So yeah, that's a very good point, and it very rarely happens. But Ozzy, I would say, in my opinion, is even bigger than Black Sabbath.
I would agree. And the other thing too that I always like to point out about Ozzy is that, I mean, if and then people of course know this, but I mean, I don't know how often people really sit back and think Ozzy is like the king of finding just incredible guitarists. I mean, from literally day one with Tony Iommi up until the end, I mean, it's just been one right after another. It's
Yeah.
just like almost every guitar player he's played with is like a legend. I mean, Tony Iommi, Randy Rhoads, Jakey Lee, Zach Wilde. I mean, there's just been so, even some of the ones that don't have quite the reputation, but like Gus G, who was playing with him when I saw him, he did the Scream album. I don't know if he did any writing, but that guy's a fucking great guitarist. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, it's just so many great guitar players that he's been aligned with. So that's another fucking great knack he had, was finding guitarists.
And do you feel like, I mean, is that just coincidence, or do you feel like maybe these people weren't like, did Ozzy help make them who they are and make them a big name, or were they already a big name going in?
Well, I mean, obviously Tony Iommi, I mean, that was just, they just happened to start the band together. But,
Right.
Randy Rhoads, and I don't know the timeline of this. Randy Rhoads was in Quiet Riot. But I think, and I could be wrong, I think he was maybe in Quiet Riot before he was in Ozzy's band, because like the big Quiet Riot songs like Bang Your Head and Come On Feel the Noise and all that, I don't think that's not Randy. So I think it was after. But no, I think Zach Wilde, I mean, I don't think he was really doing anything. I mean, he's just like a young kid. I think he was like 19.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think he was like 19 years old or something when he joined. Gus G, I mean, he's definitely a younger guy. So yeah, I think most of these guys he just kind of found or was referred to. But yeah, I mean, it always so happened that Ozzy just always had a fucking great guitarist.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool that Zach was able to be there with them, all the way until the end. And as I was gonna talk about eventually, but it just made me think of this, is thankfully, a lot of these people were there, including Zach, because some people don't even make it until their 60s. Nick Menza is the one that comes to mind, who passed away, I think, in his late 50s. You have all four original members of Black Sabbath, plus Jakey Lee was still there, plus who just got shot at, I don't know, last year, remember? I mean, so
shot in the dark.
Yeah, I mean, so many crazy things have happened. I mean, thankfully, everyone was still there, that I can think of. I'm obviously not Randy Rhoads. I mean, he's been gone for years, but like, all the original, I mean, any of them could have passed away at any time, and they didn't. So all four original Black Sabbath members, and then Zach Wilde, and he's had a really long career with him. Thankfully, there was no issues there either. Like, nothing happened where Zach had a problem and didn't want to perform with him. Like, it was just a really really cool way to end things, and it just kind of all worked out. And a lot of bands were paying tribute to Black Sabbath and Ozzy. Mainly Ozzy. Whenever that it was announced that he died, and it was just surprising to me to see my boss breaking Ben. I don't know if you saw that video, but Ben Burnley was performing an Ozzy song on that current acoustic tour that he's doing.
I saw you sent something to me. I haven't watched it yet. What song did they do?
That I don't remember. I really don't. I remember watching it, but I mean, there's been so many tributes that I don't know. I just couldn't remember. But yeah, check it out whenever you have a chance. It was just kind of surprising to me because for some reason didn't think he would do that. but I'm glad to see it. But also Machine Head was another one. I mean, a lot of bands did it, but Machine Head was another one that we talked about where I think they said, not long before they were going to go on stage, like a half hour or something like that, they found out the news and go straight into changing their set list right away and, playing a couple of, I think Black Sabbath songs in that case. But still, man, the fact that everyone just kind of stopped what they were doing, made these changes, did these tributes, it's just, man, it's just like a beautiful thing that everyone just kind of like paid tribute in every way possible that they could.
Yeah, I've seen a couple great ones. Machine Head was cool. They did War Pigs and Children of the Grave, but then I saw Wolfgang Van Halen and his band Mammoth. They did Mama, I'm Coming Home. That was probably one of the better covers I've seen. That was awesome. And we should mention too, going back to the all the band members and just everybody that's still around. Back to the beginning too was Rudy Sarzo, who played bass for Ozzy on maybe Diary of a Madman. He was in the band with Randy Rhoads, and he played it back to the beginning too. So there is a lot of guys from the old days that are still here, which is great, and to see a lot of them pay tribute to Ozzy since the news was announced, including some that have had some issues, like Bob Daisley, who wrote a lot of the songs. I mean, I think he wrote like multiple albums worth of material, and I think there was a lot of beef there, but he put out a nice tribute to Ozzy. And yeah, man, this whole thing, I mean, I think it's just as cringy as this sounds, I mean, it really did sort of bring the whole, metal community, whatever you want to call it. It kind of brought everybody together because, I don't know. It's, Ozzy just kind of transcends all those things. Like there are so many other bands that were around, especially looking at Ozzy's solo career. I mean, the height of that was, a lot of the hair bands and stuff like that, who, people dog. But even though Ozzy's solo stuff, I mean, some of that was was very hair band sounding, super shreddy guitars and whatever. But you see all these, death metal bands and grindcore bands and black metal bands and shit, making posts about Ozzy because just, so it really in a way has sort of tied everybody together, even, from different parts of metal that, aren't necessarily, you wouldn't think are really into that kind of thing,
And on top of that, not only people in metal, but people outside of metal. Adam Sandler shared a tribute.
Lady Gaga, I think she did Crazy Train.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. She had a really cool tribute, and people were like, "This is why she'll always be a legend," or something like that. She did it like really tastefully, from what I remember. But so many people just coming together.
I think Drake played. I don't know, it was either maybe the night Ozzy died or the day after or something. But he came out on stage to Iron Man. So I mean, it's like when you've got fucking the most obscure black metal band, and you also have Drake paying tribute to you. I mean, it's like holy shit, man. Not too many people could get that to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of these people I don't listen to. I don't listen to Drake or Lady Gaga, or I don't follow any of these people. But anybody who's gonna pay tribute to Ozzy like that, man, I respect him for that, and give him props for doing that. I gotta go watch that Lady Gaga one again because I think I just saw it briefly. But yeah, man, this is a big deal. As we said earlier, one of the biggest moments in history for sure, without a doubt. I mean, it's a very, very heavy thing. And like I said, I always knew this was coming. Didn't know it was going to happen this soon, but this is truly an end of an era, as I've said many times in my own posts and on, social posts through Take Me on Tour. But I just can't believe I'm here to witness it. I mean, I wasn't here for the start of it. Like Black Sabbath was obviously already a thing when I was born. But to, as I was talking to you about, people that are born later, let's say somebody's born in 2025 and, 10 years from now, they're into metal and all this stuff. I mean, this is going to be like the post Black Sabbath era, the post Ozzy era. They're going to be like, oh yeah, they weren't even alive when I was born. It's just such a weird thing that like, I'm here to witness, and see the first, metal band to ever exist and still see them perform, be alive when Ozzy passed, and all those sorts of things, man. It's just a really weird time to be alive.
It is, and I was just I was watching I forget who it was. It was some Joe Rogan clip or something, and somebody was on, and they were talking about how it's like you know, somebody compared it to like vanilla, right? Like you just vanilla is just like a part of your life, and you never like you're never gonna live without vanilla, you know. And Ozzy is that, you know. But now he's gone, and it's like this shock of like, God, I really just, you know, some people you just think are immortal, you know, like Ozzy Osbourne and Keith Richards and guys like that. And it's just like I said, I think I said at the beginning of this, you know, even though it was not surprising, I think it was something that we all knew was going to happen. But then when it did finally happen, it was like, ah, damn, dude, like I can't believe it's actually here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and what an exit, as we've talked about. I mean, what an exit, man! It would have been so tragic had he passed away 2 weeks before the performance. I mean, it just, I think obviously the event would have still happened. They would have still had a bunch of millions of dollars donated or whatever. It still would have been a success. But I mean, it would have been so tragic if they had to perform without him. So thankfully, he had such a graceful exit and everything. But it's we're unfortunately hitting the time where we're about to start seeing this start happening. I don't know if I want to call it the downfall, but just it's going to keep happening. There's still Steven Tyler, Angus Young, Rob Halford, all of Iron Maiden, like just so many people who we're going to start seeing just slowly pass away. And it really is like the closing, I guess, of this era. And it's just a really sad thing, man. At some point there's not going to be anybody left, whether, it takes 10 or 20 years. It's just a hard realization to think about.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think Ozzy made such an impact, and I think most of the bands are here only because of Black Sabbath, or at least in large part because of Black Sabbath. So I don't know, how many. Again, not to minimize anything. I mean, this is just like it's kind of like the originator, But yeah, you're absolutely right. Over the next, I mean, I would say in maybe 15 to 20 years, most of the like real larger than life, over the top, like rock stars, like a real rock star, they're probably all going to be gone for the most part. I mean, even the guys that were around like that came up like in the mid to late 80s or in their 60s now, I mean, it's a crazy thing, man. It really is.
It's going to be a sad time. 20 years from now, I'll be 57 if I live that long. But 20 years from now, I'll be 57. Like, it would be crazy to think that, like, I'm going to go, like, you can't, like, you can listen to their music still, but, like, none of them are alive. It's just going to be weird to live in a time where none of those people are alive. Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, AC/DC, you name it, man. It's just going to be a really weird thing to be like, yeah, this is going to seem like so historic, like the time like the dinosaurs ruled ruled the world or something,
Well, dude, and I mean, think about this too. I mean, we are halfway through 2025, and I mean, there are still two Beatles left alive. It's two Beatles still living, and those are like the guys that started it all. I mean, I think even Ozzy says, the Beatles are what made him want to be in a band.
Yeah.
And, within probably, I mean, not to be morbid, but we're probably within the next few years, both Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr will be gone. I mean, those guys are like old, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I don't even know what year the Beatles started, but probably like fucking 1962 or something. I mean, dude, like forever ago.
Yeah.
And I mean, those are like the guys that started it all. And to think that we even still have two of those guys here. I mean, it's incredible how, we still have some people, but yeah, I mean, this is really kind of like the tipping point now,
It is. And it is. I mean, I like you said, I really can't believe this day is here. I've been thinking about it like every now and then for the last few years. And I'm like, man, I know it's coming. And I just knew that was going to be like a huge day and such a big deal. And of course it should be, but yeah, it just feels like, yeah, like you said, the tipping point where this is, just the start of, like I said, like the closing of this era. And it's a tough thing to swallow for sure.
It is, man. And like I said, I mean, just when the news came down, I mean, just it gave me like shivers. It was just like, holy shit! Like I can't believe that this is real. I can't believe I'm filming a video, saying that Ozzy is dead. I can't believe I'm making a news post that Ozzy's no longer alive. I can't believe I'm seeing these all these other bands, write these tributes to Ozzy. I mean, it's just like, holy shit, And I think especially for the bands, the dozen or so bands that played it back to the beginning, to have just seen him, weeks ago, and then now this. I mean, it's just, yeah, man. It's it's very sad.
Yeah. I mean, a couple of bands I didn't even think of either. Your favorite, Motley Crue. I mean, they're still all here. I mean, the first band I ever saw, Kiss, they're in their 70s. Maybe even Peter Criss is close to 80. I mean, I think he's one of the older ones. But man, any day, any year now. I mean, those guys could be next. I mean, I'm not trying to wish that upon them or anything, or say that there's any reason for that. It's just that late 70s going into your 80s, man, like I feel like you're very fortunate to be alive, especially for the lifestyle that these people lived. This isn't what it was in the 80s or 90s. Touring and being backstage and all that is not what it was. So the fact that these people lived through that era with, probably plenty of hard drugs and are still alive, making it to their 70s and 80s is pretty damn impressive, man.
Well, going back to Ozzy and Sharon and all them, giving so many bands their start. Motley's another one who, I mean, Nikki Sixx. This was right back to the beginning, so this is before Ozzy died. But I mean, he credited Ozzy and Sharon with breaking Motley Crue, because Ozzy took Motley on their first ever big tour. So I mean, even going back to the early days of his solo career, he was helping break bands.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I didn't even know that. I mean, maybe I read it somewhere, but I don't remember that. But yeah, maybe he didn't realize it. Maybe at that time they were just putting together a tour package. But who know? At that time, I mean, how many big bands were there? This is the start of even Ozzy's career. It's like Motley Crue. Let's put them on the bill. Like, who else are they going to put? That might have just been one of the only bands they knew of. It was just a different time. But little did they know like what they were going to end up becoming and how much they were going to contribute to all these bands' careers.
Well, and of course, the Ozzy and Motley Crue tour gave birth to one of the greatest rock and roll tales of all time, of Ozzy snorting the ants.
Right.
I mean, it's like the greatest story ever, whether it's true or not. Because Sharon, or was it Sharon? I think Sharon and Jakey Lee both have said that it's not true, but Ozzy says it's true, and Motley says it's true. They put it in their movie, but who cares? I mean, that is like the greatest story of all time. There was like Sharon had some issues with that Motley, the Motley movie, The Dirt, on Netflix, because and I thought this too was kind of weird. The thumbnail for the movie on Netflix, and Netflix changes the thumbnails for movies all the time, but for the longest time, it might still be to this day, I don't know, but the thumbnail of the Motley Crue movie was Ozzy snorting ants.
Yeah. I remember that because I remember that image. I've only seen The Dirt once, but that image sticks in my head, and that's probably why.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it makes no sense, I mean, and I think, was it Jack or something? I don't know. Somebody's like, well, yeah, because Ozzy's bigger than Motley Crue, but yeah, when you have your own movie and you have somebody else on your thumbnail, like it was weird, but that is probably one of the most outrageous stories ever,
But yeah, man, you're right. I mean, just this guy just made such an impact on so many people's lives, and crazy to think that we're here doing a podcast episode about it. Like you said, you broke the news story on your own channel, and such a weird feeling to be saying something like that. But I'm glad I lived through this era. Grateful to have seen Ozzy multiple times throughout Ozzfest, and just watch the Osbournes and watch Battle for Ozzfest, and I'm just glad he was a part of the era that that I lived through. But this video or this podcast isn't directly related to touring, but I mean, I think we all know like we wouldn't be here without Black Sabbath or Ozzy, which is why I felt like like it was appropriate to do an episode about it. I just, I was about to do an episode anyway, and I figured like, why not pay tribute to, to Ozzy himself. And, you said, you were like, well, how much is there to talk about? And I was like, trust me, there's plenty to talk about. And look, I mean, I don't even know how long this episode is because we've had a couple of technical difficulties, but we're probably an hour and 40 minutes in at least, something like that. But I just knew there was plenty to say, man. There's always something to talk about, and especially with Ozzy and everything that he's done and everything that happened at Back to the Beginning, I knew for a fact that I could cover a whole episode with just Ozzy.
Yeah, man. It was, I mean, and honestly, I mean, we could probably go for hours longer, I mean, I think, if you really dive in and start really, digging in, I guess when you originally brought this up, it was like, well, we're going to say that Ozzy died like a million other people have. But yeah, once you start, breaking down Back to the Beginning and you break down Ozzfest and all that stuff, man, I mean, there is so much. And I think, the bands that, you wouldn't even put in the same category, like Breaking Benjamin, who you work for.
Yeah.
I mean, that band probably wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Black Sabbath. I mean, it's just it's crazy, man. And going back to some of the people that have paid tributes, there are people so far. Lady Gaga has obviously in the past expressed, being a rock and metal fan, but there are people so far away, even further from rock and metal, making these posts and doing these tributes. And yeah, it's just that guy was a true icon, man. A true icon, and it is definitely it's going to be weird, it's going to be weird to live in a world without Ozzy Osbourne.
100%, man. I absolutely agree. And I'm glad we got this episode done. And I appreciate you taking the time to do it with me, man. I mean, I just knew that if there's anybody to talk Ozzy with, it's going to be you, and I like I said, I just knew there was plenty to talk about. But I'll be doing another episode coming up covering my time in Australia with Memphis Mayfire. That should be out in the next coming weeks. In the meantime, check out Take Me on Tour on all social platforms, as well as The Logan Show. He's got a YouTube channel as well as an account on all platforms. I'll link all that stuff for you in the description. I'll be going on tour again soon with Breaking Benjamin and 3 Days Grace coming up. And I guess the end of August, I'll be leaving for that. So I'll probably have updates from that as well. And lastly, I appreciate anyone who stuck around until the end, or anyone who decides to return to this podcast, even with my crazy sporadic schedule, because we all know it's just it's kind of just whenever I can get one done, I get one done. So yeah, I appreciate any of you guys being here. Logan, you got anything else before we go?
Sure. I guess I'll give myself a quick little shameless plug, but I am going to be speaking to David Ellefson soon, who is performing at Back to the Beginning. So hopefully, get some of the inside scoop on that. Obviously, spent some time with him talking about Ozzy too, and he actually had a relationship with him. So check that out. That'll be out in the next couple of weeks. But other than that, really glad we got to do this, man. It's been way too long since we've done a Team Out episode together. So glad we could do this. I wish it was wish it was of a different topic. But, it is what it is. Everybody, we all got to pay tribute to the Prince of Darkness, man.
Yeah, I agree, man. I do wish it was under different circumstances as well. But, at the same time, it's an opportunity to honor Ozzy Osbourne, man, the Prince of Darkness. So, yeah, I appreciate anybody sticking around to the end, man. Rest in peace, the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne, man. And we'll catch you guys in the next one.